Welcome to Shooting Straight with Brad and Casey. I'm Brad Carlyon, the Navajo County Attorney, and sitting in for Sheriff Clark today is Chief Deputy Jim Molesa. Thank you for joining us, Jim.
Glad to be here.
And our guest this month is Commander Jeff McNeil of the Sholo Police Department, who's also the commander of the White Mountain Regional Special Response Team, which is a mouthful, basically the SWAT team. Jeff, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Brad.
What exactly is a SRT or SWAT team?
Well, the Specialized Response Team is a team of individuals that have more specialized training than your regular patrol officer does to handle situations that are outside the realm that they deal with every day, such as a barricaded subject, a hostage taker, somebody with weapons. We also do search warrants, high-risk search warrants for drug task force on occasion and stuff like that.
Since this is a regional team, I assume that there's members of it outside of the Sholo Police Department.
That is correct.
What other agencies participate?
Currently we have members from the Navajo County Sheriff's Office, the Snowflake Taylor Police Department, and we had one from Pine Top, and we're waiting for somebody to come back on from their agency.
And then there's plans to go even further, right?
There is. So over the last year, we've been working with the agencies from Apache County, the Apache County Sheriff's Office, St. John's PD, Springerville, and Eager. And now Winslow PD has contacted us and wants to put a couple members back on. So you can imagine, Brad, the amount of people it takes to run those situations. I know Chief Molesa has been on several of them with us, and those don't just happen and be done in an hour or so.
I understand that, but our audience might not. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I can. Sometimes these situations take longer than we would like at times. They
Well, in the philosophy, right, correct me if I'm wrong, but time is on our side.
Correct. They're not a danger to the public at that particular time. As long as we're having communications with them, we have a negotiations team of 3 to 5 people currently, and we let them do their job. We just try and keep that dangerous element of spreading out into the population.
So how many people are on the SRT team?
Currently now, with the integration of members from Apache County, we have 22. So we're hoping to get to 26 here in the next year.
So is 26 an ideal number for a special response team?
It is.
Why?
So,
That's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people. As I was explaining earlier, that sometimes these situations go on for 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, and imagine the mental overload of trying to be watching and staying tactfully sound for a long period of time. So we have to insert people in and out and let them switch in and out so that they don't miss something or let something get by them because they're mentally exhausted. A lot of people think physical work as being exhausting. It is. And those who have been in law enforcement or in your job even, you know that mentally taxing work is just as exhausting on the body as anything. So
Plus being on call literally 24/7 for the region. People have lives outside their employment. You don't always know who you're going to get.
that is true. So when the Shoal Police Department started the team in '98, we had 6 members. And then over time we grew from 8 to 11. And then we just realized that we can't do this. People have to take vacations, people are sick, people are actually working the road. So that's when we went to Navajo County Sheriff's Department and said, hey, what do you think about this? And we worked together, and it's been great. And the beautiful thing about our team is, early on, I've been on it since 1999 in some form or fashion as a tactical team member, different entities, and I've had all sorts of positions within the team. It has grown and evolved, and this has kind of been fun to watch, because to see this grow and see the need for it, it happens and changes on a dime. It's like literally we were down looking for in Sibicu this last weekend on a nice Sunday afternoon.
Right. Looking for a fugitive.
Down probably 10 hours, trying to pick up this guy's trail, and we picked it up. It just got lost in the dark, and then we had to pull it back for the safety of our officers, because we knew the gentleman was armed and dangerous, and he went into some tight brush, and we picked up the trail the next morning. Unfortunately,
And the weather wasn't cooperating. We had flash floods.
Some things are out of your control.
Exactly.
You said you've seen it, the SRT team evolve since its inception in '98. What do you mean by evolved? How has it evolved?
well, in '98, when we worked under Chief Corder, we basically became we were started out as a containment team. So the first original 6 members were a containment team.
Which means?
Which means they would show up to a situation, a hostage situation or a barricaded subject situation, and they would contain it until a team could come from Phoenix or from Flagstaff. And so over the years, even though that 6-man containment team, every month they were training just like a regular SWAT team. But it was a new idea up here. And so it was a little bit scary, high liability area with a SWAT team having that. It's scary. I can understand how administrations look at that. It grew, and but the problem is we had to wait for a team to assemble in Phoenix or Flagstaff and then fly up here or drive up here, and then they've got to be briefed, and then they got to do their whole plan, and it just became a long, tedious process. It was like, okay. And I remember probably in 2000 we were on an incident where a gentleman had hit his girlfriend with a crowbar over the head and barricaded with her inside, and there was an extended time, and we told the chief, hey, Chief Corder, we can do this. And he let us do it, and it kind of grew from there. It's like, okay, we don't need anybody else. But where I say it grew, we gradually started doing stuff more and more. But being a small, new team, when we would go to trainings and stuff, we're like, okay, hey, don't tell them we already have a team, because we don't know how good we are. But really, with our team leader, Jason Spear, Chief Molesa's worked with him, you know him well. This guy is my right-hand man. He's a tactical guru. I trust what he sees. I trust his instincts. And you know, we've done a number of events over the year, or incidents over the year that could have gone other ways, and they didn't.
I'm sorry. So the team has different components, and I think it'd be interesting. I mean, it's not all about containment and everything. You mentioned one component being the hostage negotiation team. So communication is a big part of what SRT does once something gets contained. I mean, if anything, they open lines of communication maybe with the other individual that weren't there before. Talk a little bit about that and how that is a specialized thing too, in addition to the other components.
Right. So everybody on the team has a specialty. Our negotiation team is wonderful. You talk about them. From a guy who's been on both sides of the tactical side of a SWAT team, of the old school mindset, and you've been there, Jim, where we just, you know, we show up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, hit the house, and we're in and out the good old days. And now we've got all these other restrictions that come around. So the negotiations team was kind of a new element, and it's really hard for the old TAC guys to get used to, you know, because our negotiators are actually very wonderful. They have gotten compliance out of a lot of subjects that probably wouldn't have, and we would probably ended up in a different route. But these guys are good, and everybody has their own specialized. We have guys that are breachers, we have guys that are tactical scouts, we have guys that are the less lethal munitions experts. Everybody can do everything because that guy might be gone that day. But we have one guy that we make sure is a train the trainer and can come back and teach us and keep us up to date. And we send one guy with each hat on that to their specialized, and then they come back and fill us in.
First, how often is your SR team even called out in a year? Or is there much demand?
Well, no. Back quite a few years ago, we used to go out on a lot, but we actually have been, because we have, I think that's the beauty of it, being a regional team now, is we have team members from different agencies that they understand what our criteria is now, and so we don't have to get called out as much. We used to be like, oh, he has a gun. I'm like, okay. So now we kind of prep guys on the phone that call from other agencies. Okay, what did you try? What did you do? You know, sometimes it was like, did you call the guy on the PA?
Did you go to the front door and
Yeah,
knock?
yeah.
Please come
I'm
out.
He may have a gun, but you're still police officers, and we have to get them to understand that. Until there's a overt act or threat, then, you know, it's really not an SRT just because they own a gun. That's part of the beauty of our Constitution, as we were talking about earlier. So people can own guns. It doesn't make them necessarily a threat unless there's some other indication or information that says that they're a threat to us.
You talked about a communications team. Is there actually more than one person when you have like a hostage situation or trying to get a barricaded person out?
Absolutely. So you actually have optimally 3 negotiators. So one's a note taker and kind of feeding the guy information, and you have one guy on a headset actually talking to the person, trying to get them out. But as if with anything, the more ears you have going, somebody picks up something different. So they'll be like, write a note, hey, ask them about this. And so you have somebody like that. And then we actually have a scribe who's taking notes when they made contact, when they lost contact, stuff like that. So
how are you able to initiate contact? You're rolling up to a house. You may or may not, I assume, know what the landline is or their cell phone is. How do you initiate the contact when you don't know?
Yes, good question. So sometimes we know, or we have contact with a family member that can give us a cell phone number or a landline number. Other times we don't, and we use the PA system to get contact, and that will generally trigger contact if we don't have a cell phone number. So somebody blaring the PA from a police vehicle will get somebody contacting. It's like, hey, we just want to talk. We got to get you a phone or call this number, and that's usually how we do it.
Okay.
There's a third method, but
What is it?
we have what's called a throw phone.
Okay.
So it's a phone we can insert that is got a real nice indestructible shell, and it's two-way. So they can't unplug it. We can communicate once we get it inside the house.
Basically a one-way communication
It's a
phone,
two-way.
But two-way, but you can only communicate with one person, and that's you guys.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So they just can't call.
They can't call and order
anybody.
pizza and or
Right.
You also talked about a breach team. What is a breach team?
Whenever we have to make an entry, and sometimes a door is barricaded or locked, we have what's called a breaching team. So
It would sound like if you're having to make a breach, and if you're called out, it must be a high danger situation. How do you make a breach that's safe for the officers participating?
we try to do the best we can.
Oh, I understand that. I
Well,
see-
and you have special,
I mean, we have specialty tools that have
equipment.
that. Yeah.
You have
Okay.
shields and things like that,
Right.
but also the tactics you employ from being a regular patrol officer are a little more advanced, right?
Right.
As far as going around a corner or maybe approaching a door or having somebody approach you.
Correct. So, I mean, we have the different tools that can help us manipulate doors and stuff like that. And then we have obviously the ballistic shields that we do as well. And the dynamics of a special response team as opposed to working with somebody in regular patrol is so much different, because while I may work with Jim often, 4 days a week, we don't typically get to work that tight. And, our SWAT team.
High risk situation.
Correct. And so there's a lot of movements that you do in a SWAT team where you're just right up against each other and doing stuff. And I have to trust that he's doing his job and I have my assignment and I do mine. And
So it sounds like you should or do train quite a bit, so you develop that camaraderie, familiarity, and
correct.
trust.
Correct.
So
So
how often do you train?
we train once a month, and turns into about 11 hours on a day.
So it's more than just standing on a line at a shooting range and putting holes in a target.
No, there's a lot of things we do.
Like
Manipulate it. We put together scenarios. So typically we do some range stuff. Start out with that, some moving and shooting, some weapons control, and then we'll go into a certain thing that we plan out and say, okay, we want to work on this particular element this month, and we'll work on that. And then usually we break for a team dinner, and so that's kind of nice. We go to a local restaurant and everybody eats as a team, and we kind of shoot the breeze for an hour, and then we get back on it, and for the next 5 hours we're doing a scenario-based element that incorporates what we worked on to the day. So
And in these scenarios, you guys will use role players too. So it's
Correct.
And maybe even something like simunition. So it's
Yes.
as real as you can get.
we try to keep it that way. So
So do you have a house or a building that you can actually breach in this training?
well, that's funny you should say. We wish we did, and we're working towards that. So Brant Clark with the Navajo County is working on that, and we're going to be moving on that here again. He's hit a couple contacts. So we're trying to build a permanent structure out at the range that we can manipulate and move walls. So that is somewhat troublesome not to have a permanent place, but the local businesses and schools and everybody's been very supportive. We use a couple of real estate friends we have. Grady Hillis is always getting us a house that he's got a place that he's got for sale that we can go in.
As long as you don't put too many holes in the walls or anything.
No, we don't.
Break the door down.
It's more for the movement, actually.
Sure.
So you're right. We do implement the simulations every now and again, but the other part is really about the movement, being able to flow through a house and move through a team quickly. It's amazing. And like I said, I was telling you earlier, we go to some of these trainings, pretty much everyone we've been to, and I told you we're kind of coy, trying to see what the training's like, because we're small town, we're not Phoenix SWAT, we're not, we're
the
not
Valley.
Yeah, we're not the big agency
Right.
SWAT
It's a
teams,
full-time
and we're just like,
job.
hey, we're here. But literally every class where we've gone to advanced trainings, from Progressive Force in Las Vegas to places in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and these are advanced SWATs. Whatever guys we send, they pull off.
It's interesting.
And they say, you guys are way too advanced, and it's just the training and the dedication that our guys put into the training.
You mentioned something that SWAT teams are good at and adapt at, and patrol is working on getting there, but Progressive Force, so escalation of a situation and then de-escalation is equally as important too at the right time.
Right, and that's the beauty of it, and that's why I was explaining earlier. Yes, we used to get called out a lot, so we're in month 7 right now. We've had 5 call-outs this year already between the 2 counties. So we usually average about 1 a month. It's not horrible or anything like that, but it's been huge to do this integration of the regional, multi-regional team, because we can use little resources from each agency. So if you've got 2 or 3 or 4 guys and we've got 5 or 6 guys, and each agency's putting 1 or 2. Now imagine that when you have that incident that just come out of the blue, and now we've got to take care of it, and you can utilize this team, and you have this manpower to handle that, and it's a minimal cost. Okay, I had to pay my guy 6 hours overtime. Okay, that's not bad, but I got 20 guys for the price of that.
Absolutely.
2 or 3 guys. So
Because you have members of the SRT team coming from so many different directions, how long does it take to activate an SRT team and get them in place when they're needed?
based on the call, we will look at the situation, and obviously either Sergeant Spear or myself will get that phone call saying what they need and what the situation is, and we'll gather that. And from there we'll determine, okay, do we need to send 2 or 3 guys now? Do we need to send 6 guys straight to the scene and everybody else comes and meets? Depending on the situation, we already have predetermined plans on that. So, I mean, if we had something of a barricade hostage situation, everybody just goes to the scene. So they just filter in as they get there, and then we basically, from an ICS situation, we start implementing as they roll in.
I know under the Regional Homicide Task Force, whatever jurisdiction the homicide occurred in, that agency has the lead role, even though there's people coming in from all the agencies to help. With SRT, are you always in charge, regardless of what jurisdiction it comes?
We hope that's not the case. We do come in, and our understanding to the other agencies and the chiefs in that is we're coming here to be a help to you. And they'll tell us the situation. We're like, okay, here's what we can do. A, B, or C, choose a plan. Years ago, we had a couple incidents where somebody's like, hey, we just want you to do this. It's like, no, we don't do that. So we come in and tell them what we can and what we're capable of doing and what we will do. You know, we're not coming in and necessarily taking over. We have a liaison from that host agency that basically is there, and we're like, okay, this is what we see, this is what we got, here's what we can do, which plan would you like?
So someone who wants to be a team member, sheriff's deputy, SHOLO officer, Pine Top officer, what are you looking for from that officer, that man or woman or detective for their contribution to the team?
As far as testing wise, or,
Right.
or just what are we looking for? You know, what works the best is somebody that's obviously, first of all, a great team player. They've got to be that team player. It's not got to be about them. It's got to be about the team. That's the only way this thing works. They've got to be physically fit. The regular patrol stuff we wear with our vest and our gun belt on patrol, it's about 20 to 25 pounds depending on what you've all got on. When you gear up in SWAT gear, you're anywhere from 50 to 65 pounds in gear, so you got to be able to tote it. Yeah,
Carry your weight, right?
And carry it for a while. So, you know, as we said, we were in Civic Q. We had guys that a couple teams that walked 3 to 4 miles in an hour period on the trail with the DOC dogs, and then, you know, most of us were at 2 hours walking, you know, with all that gear on because we knew the gentleman was armed and dangerous. So We're very good. We look at all sorts of elements. We've used Dusty Whiting with the tribe to teach us how to man track, and where they had last guys that first went down and found a track, we actually found it. Actually, it was Dustin Mackin, Navajo County and Ty, that found it a half mile after the last known track. I mean, we had gone all around his last known tracks and couldn't pick up anything. In a half mile, a little over a half mile ahead.
So for the individual that's interested in joining a team, it's much more than being able to be a good shot.
Correct. It's a lot about, again, teamwork. The good shot is very helpful.
I get it.
The moving and shooting. For our guys, we want them to have, for any member that wants to join, they've got to have at least 2 years on the road off probation. So basically it comes out to be about 2.5 years. They've got to have a little water behind their ears, I guess is lack of better terms, so that they know what's going on. A lot of guys come out of the academy or go to the academy just to become a SWAT member, and it's like you got to put a little time in first, and then you'll get to it. Not a whole lot about it.
So besides the additional training, there's really no other monetary type of benefit to being a member of the SRTT?
Absolutely none, unless each individual agency pays their guy more.
The sheriff's office doesn't, by the way.
Neither does Sholo. They did at one time, but we used to get specialty pay.
But within law enforcement, there's a certain amount of notoriety or that goes along with being on the SRT team, and then you get a substantial amount of added training too, right? That
absolutely,
that is yours,
right?
As an individual,
it does help you, and there is that. I think it's with anything in law enforcement or any job I look at. If you have pride in it, it doesn't matter how much money you make. If it gives you satisfaction, that's what you do. And I think that's where our SWAT members are, is like, yep, it would be nice to get paid hazard pay or however other agencies determine it for the type of work that we're putting ourselves out there and the extra stuff, but they really are dedicated to their communities, and that's why they do this. I've never been so proud of a team and where we've evolved to over the years as these guys. These guys are top notch.
When you go to these trainings around the state and adjacent states, is there like competitions between the different teams that go?
No. I mean, I'm sure they have them, but I'm sure they have, I know they have competitions, but we've never gone to one. It's typically we go and literally, I guess the one I speak of, and most of my guys can speak of that same thing when they've gone. We went to Vegas for a training, and we were with the military. Okay, I was never in the military, but I pictured, okay, these are the best of the best. This is where SWAT gets some of their tactics. And we were training with them, and it was a week-long course in Vegas. And after day 2, the instructor's like, I am so sorry. He's like, this is too low speed for you guys. He's like, we need to move you up. And he literally took us off and made up the last 3 days of classes. So we got to do some high-speed stuff. They were capable of teaching it, but they had to pull back for the other students because our guys were like, just, I guess, killing the class, for lack of a better term.
Speaks highly of your leadership and the team that you have.
Yeah, Jason's very good at.
And then there's a certain amount of communication that goes from team to team too, right? From Flagstaff, from Phoenix, maybe to Mesa, where things are done kind of similarly. So if a scenario came in where you guys were out there a long time and you came to me and we needed to begin replacements, everybody somewhat needs to be on the same sheet of music, right?
Yes, and we're actually currently working on that. So as I told you about, Apache County in the last year approached us and says, hey, they were trying to set up their own team over there, and they kind of realized that they were in the stages that we were in '98. They had gotten grants for Apache County side, and they had a great team years ago, but it just kind of disbanded over the years. Well, they were trying to restart that and realized they were only going to be able to outfit 7 guys. And so they had approached us with the idea, hey, can we join up with you guys? It's like, absolutely, let's work on that. So we're doing that. I'm not avoiding your question there. So there is that communication. Currently working with John Brambilla, the lieutenant at Prescott PD, and we're working with the team in Payson to start doing joint trainings there, because Payson has come up, if you remember our Heber incident, several years ago, that they came up and helped us, and so we want to get that and at least have like a 2-day training once a year where we meet somewhere and work as a tri-team. It's good to have that, but we don't have anything where everybody's on the same page. And as you know, when we talk about active shooter or teach active shooter to the different agencies around, that's our ultimate goal, is everybody's on the same page.
Right.
And so that's why we teach it. So you don't have, well, our agency does this and you've got chaos. If everybody's kind of on the same sheet of music, even though they're a little off key,
Right.
singing.
Well, Jeff, thank you for the time.
Oh,
It's gone
okay.
quickly, but we need to
was
wrap
quick.
up the show. And thank you for joining us on Shooting Straight with Brad and Casey. And stay tuned for this month's Most Wanted.
Here is this month's Most Wanted. The Navajo County Sheriff's Office is seeking Jason E. Overby. Jason is from the Pinetop area and has 2 warrants out for his arrest for failure to appear on assault charges. Overby is a registered sex offender and is considered dangerous. If you have any information about the location of Jason E. Overby, please call the Navajo County Sheriff's Office at 928-524-4050 or WeTip at 1-800-78-CRIME.